The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to the chief priests and the elders of the people, "Hear another parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard, put a hedge around it, dug a winepress in it, and built a tower. Then he leased it to tenants and went on a journey. When vintage time drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants to obtain his produce. But the tenants seized the servants, and one they beat, another they killed, and a third they stoned. Again, he sent other servants, more numerous than the first ones, but they treated them in the same way. Finally, he sent his son to them, thinking, 'They will respect my son.' But when the tenants saw the son, they said to one another, 'This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and acquire his inheritance.' They seized him, threw him out of the vineyard, and killed him. What will the owner of the vineyard do to those tenants when he comes?" They answered him, "They will put those wretched men to a wretched death and lease his vineyard to other tenants who will give him the produce at the proper times." Jesus said to them, "Did you ever read in the scriptures, 'The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. By the Lord has this been done, and it is wonderful in our eyes.' Therefore, I say to you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people that will produce its fruit." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus.
She thought it was a bundle of rags lying on the hot Calcutta pavement. But coming closer, the rag pile transformed into the body of a woman. Barely conscious, her face partially eaten away by rats and ants, the woman was taken by Mother Teresa and her companions to a hospital where she was refused admittance. Told there were no beds available since the woman was dying and there was nothing that could be done, Mother Teresa refused to leave her and stayed with the woman when she died a few short hours later. It was then that Mother Teresa decided to find a place for the dying and to take care of them herself. On this Respect Life Sunday, the reminder comes that the stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. An impoverished sister, Mother Teresa, living in the poorest city in the world, ministering to the dying, became the cornerstone for expanding the meaning of what it means to respect life. For Mother Teresa, the conclusion of life was important because what was true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, and gracious existed profoundly among the lepers, among the abandoned children, among those suffering from TB, from AIDS, all those who Mother Teresa reached out and cared for. Later in life, Mother Teresa said, "Maybe if I had not picked up that one person dying on the street, I would not have picked up the thousands." The challenge is there for you and me today. the challenge to care about the person, the one who you are with at the moment, and to ask yourself, how am I respecting life, this one person standing directly in front of me? Because if one can offer respect consistently, only then can one be considered truly respecting and valuing the gift of life. Our readings today are consistent with the theme of the vineyard, both found in the prophet Isaiah and in the Gospel of Matthew. Isaiah clearly demonstrates for us the distortion that occurs when sin, if left unchecked, what happens? Ultimately, it brings destruction. And then coupled with Matthew's gospel, his image today, both to serve and to remind all of us whose vineyard we live and to whom we are responsible to. Respecting life in all its forms. It clearly is a priority, a task, intending to God's vineyard here on earth. A task that you and me, we are the stewards, we are the managers, but we are not the owners. Our United States bishops have been very clear about their teachings on the sanctity of human life, because their statement on this matter emphasizes that every person is created in the image and the likeness of our God. Therefore, each person's life and dignity must be respected. Whether that person is the infant unborn in an unborn child in the womb of a mother, whether that person worked in the World Trade Center, or maybe a simple market in Baghdad, or maybe even a person that's a convicted criminal on death row. The bishops stress that every human life is sacred from conception to natural death. Which people are more important than things in the measure of every institution is whether it protects and respects and enhances the life and the dignity of every person. And so we're presented with the image of the vineyard today. What Isaiah is telling the people of his time, as well as all of us, is that the vineyard originally had everything it needed. All it required was the proper management to keep it going. Everything had proper order and served its purpose, thus the efficient running of the vineyard. The workers were the managers, not the owners. Then suddenly, there are those who had lost their way. They allowed sin to change their relationship with God. They ceased being the managers. They made themselves the king, the owner. Instead of protecting life, they caused bloodshed. Instead of promoting justice, they caused outcries of injustice. They wanted to be owner rather than manager. They sought the power, the prestige, the control, the money, the false security. They failed to allow what the Lord was calling them to do. Rather, they wanted to be served and not to serve, and care for their brothers and sisters. Then St. Paul encourages the Philippian people to let go of all of their anxieties that they have and to do it through prayer, and to bring what they need to the loving God. In a sense, he calls them to be the managers of the vineyard. He calls you and me to be the managers. And so the result is that he tells us it is in doing that that the peace of God will truly reign in all of our hearts. And then he further instructs the people at the time to think about how they can give worthy praise and thanks to the Lord. He says simply to live the virtues of truth, of honor, of justice, of graciousness and love, of a sense of an excellence to be lived, celebrated, and shared as the workers in the vineyard of our God. Simply, St. Paul is calling his followers, calling you and me to love and to care for one another. Because God is the owner, we the managers, we the laborers, the workers, and so we need to live that out. Think about these images for a moment. We cannot neglect the poor because it is not in our self-interest to tend to them. We cannot abort a baby because we want to, for we need to help unwed mothers find the means to bring their babies to term and not to feel trapped or alone. We cannot advocate capital punishment because the criminal does not, in our view of things, deserve to live. We cannot advocate for assisted suicide because the person has no hope and does not wish to suffer. We need to find avenues of peace that do not involve the taking up of arms. Even if we're told that all is good, legal, and okay, we cannot do it. Therefore, we as church, people of God, the laborers in the vineyard, it is our faith that needs to be our guiding force, our strength, our inspiration that truly gives life, praise, and thanks to God and to one another. Our faith needs to be the guiding force. Our faith is not something that will just make us comfortable, but rather our faith needs to challenge us, to help us grow, to recognize our responsibilities, our dignity, to seek justice, to strengthen one another in freedom, and truly live the gospel every day. Respect life in all its forms, to be the workers, the laborers in the vineyard, to follow the ways of Christ, to carry the cross, to help one another, and to value life at all times, from the moment of conception to the time of natural death. May we as a church, a people of God, live that, proclaim that, and share that, for our lives and the lives of each and every one of us are vital, important, and cherished.